All right, welcome to the Rich CELENZA Show.
With Ria.
Oh my goodness, I'm Rich CELENZA, and this is actually called WTF Are You Talking About? So I'm back with RIA LOEKS.
Hello.
All right, Ria. Ria, we're going to do a podcast today on something she has no idea what I was going to hit her with. I like doing this with her because I catch her off guard.
You always do this.
I know, because if I tell her ahead of time, it sounds a little scripted with her. I don't want her to have time to think about it and kind of structure it the way
All right.
she would want. I just want it to be very natural. So I was thinking of calling this podcast A Long Distance Relationship is What You May Need. Or something in that nature. Or wait, what was the other one?
Okay.
You don't know what you're missing out on.
Your hands are going to hit me in the face.
Oh, I'm sorry. So basically, I don't know how to word it perfectly yet, and that's why I wanted to ask you. But what I want this segment to be about is people that actually aren't successful in relationships may need to be or may consider being in a long-distance relationship.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you kind of a twist to this. So me and you first started off as a long-distance relationship for the most part, correct?
We did.
Right?
Yes.
And I think you in your past, you had long-distance relationships before, correct?
Yes, I did.
Right. So you're more of an expert on that. I wasn't.
It's okay.
I wasn't like that for the most part. I didn't have long-distance relationships, nor was I interested in them. I thought they were kind of ridiculous. I thought they were stupid, but... Give me a little of your input.
So wait, you think our long-distance relationship was stupid?
No, what I'm saying is ours wasn't actually that long.
No, it wasn't, but it was long distance. I'm not. That's what you're talking about.
Correct. But my point being is a lot of people like myself, I think, originally thought long-distance relationships are stupid or they'll never work out.
Well, I still think that there's a small majority that do work out. I think we've talked about that too.
Right, but here's the twist.
Okay.
Are you ready?
All right.
What about people that are together, like we are, we live together,
Yes.
that also actually still kind of have a long-distance relationship even though they live together? It's just structured differently, if that makes sense. Hear me out. So obviously, I used to live in California. You lived here.
Yeah.
We lived together, but
Yes.
with all my traveling, or my past traveling, along with your traveling, it's almost like we still have a long-distance relationship to a certain degree, but we still come home to each other. Does that kind of make sense?
Well, I don't think so, because I think people in the military, like my parents were, those were a long distance relationship, even though they were a long distance relationship because they had longer stretches of time. We're gone maybe just a couple days away from each other. I don't think that I would consider that a long distance relationship. I don't think that's a twist.
Well, no. What I'm saying is I was gone for a couple weeks at a time. Like I said, here's what my point being is.
Okay.
This is the other part of it. So, of course, we don't have a long-distance relationship in that scope. To a certain degree, we do go, though, long periods of time sometimes without seeing one another. I don't mean necessarily, so if I'm gone a week, come back for 3-4 days, then I'm gone 2 weeks, come back for a week, then I'm gone only 5 days. It's not a long-distance relationship from the perspective of location, but it's kind of a relationship that kind of we're together and then we're separated.
Well, yeah.
Right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
That's what I mean when I say I don't think a lot of people understand that that's sometimes how beneficial it could be.
Well, then I would say that distance makes the heart grow fonder.
I will say I think...
But I think it's healthy. Because I think we talked about that before also, that couples sometimes are too afraid to be apart from one another, whether or not it's different, like I don't think a lot of people have the type of work we do where we are apart, and I think that some people that do the 9-to-5 job, or there's one is a stay-at-home and one, they are never ever apart, right? And I think that some couples, I don't think that's healthy. Like for instance, even if it's like a guy's day out, right, or a girl's vacation like I do, a lot of couples don't want to do that.
Well, they're insecure.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But I also think we're older now and our kids are older.
Yeah, but I'm even talking people our age too. A lot of couples who've been married or together for a long time still have not explored those options. They're just, I think it is insecure, right? Yeah.
I would think it's insecurity, and I also think, I'll just go back to my original marriage. I think both people get in a position where I'm not saying you're afraid to just say, hey, let me go to Vegas now for a week with the guys, or let me do this or that. I think when you're first together, I think it's before you have kids, it seems like it's okay. But after you have one or two children, then there's an obligation there. But this is what I used to find quite interesting. So my cousins used to travel all the time. And I never really traveled during when I had kids. And I always used to think, my God, like they're always missing out on their kids this. Or what does their wife think that they're gone all the time? Or I knew guys where their wife traveled, for instance, right? And I was like, what kind of relationship is that? Where somebody's always leaving for work, coming back, or whatever the case may be. But I realized after my divorce, and you were the opposite. During you were married, you were the one who was traveling a majority of the time, correct?
Yeah, my ex-husband did it the beginning when Madison was really little.
Right.
He was gone traveling, and then it flipped where I was the one traveling. So at different times of our marriage, one or the other was traveling. And I would say I traveled... He traveled when the kids were very, very young, and then I traveled later on through grade school, junior high, and now,
right?
So, but yeah, I mean, so how do you want to? I mean, I guess we're kind of going off.
Well, here's what I was going to say too. So in before I was even married, my ex-wife went to college, which she went to Georgia, and I thought that was kind of cool. She was gone a majority of the time. Not saying that was a cool thing or whatever. And then when she started her work or her career, she traveled a lot with the company she was with. And I kind of thought that was cool as well. But it seemed like then once we got married, we never took breaks from one another for the most part. Right. Does that kind of make sense? Yeah. You did everything together, which I think as time goes on, almost exhausted both of us to a certain degree, because I think, not that you lose yourself, but if you never kind of get a break from yourself, or I think in our case now when we do travel, because I would drive you crazy, right? You need a break from me.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need a break from you. I don't know what it is about me. I think I'm just too overwhelming at times for you. Plus, you're still juggling your two children at home, right? So that takes up energy for you as well. And you're trying to juggle three of us. I don't go through that, right? But my point being with this, if people maybe, I'm not saying start taking out a career. If you're with somebody in a relationship, married, engaged, or whatever, start traveling more separately to bring yourself together.
But I think it's healthy.
Well, I do, but if you have opportunities, maybe you, your wife, whoever, maybe to take a job where they can travel a little bit, or just take breaks from one another.
Yeah.
It can even be on weekends, like not, I don't know, if you've never been divorced, there are strengths and weaknesses to divorce. Okay. And the one strength I will say is when I did get a divorce, I basically, when I was with my kids, I just could focus in on me and my kids. I didn't always have to include my ex-wife in doing what I wanted to do or feel bad. I just did it, right? Same with her. Same with family a lot of times. Like a lot of times you're like, should I go to your parents? No, I don't want to go to your parents. You want to come to mine? I got to go to Chicago. It's all this questioning one another, right?
Right.
Where when you get a divorce, am I wrong? It's kind of like, all right, you're with me now. We're going to do what we like to do. And then with your mom, you get, like if your mom loves going to the beach and I don't, you get to go to the beach with her. If I like to hypothetically go to water parks and your mother hated it, we get to now do water parks. I'm just using that for an example. So what do you think?
Well, I think we need to go back to the subject of with relationships.
Correct.
It is okay. I think it is healthy that there are relationships and there should be times when you feel comfortable spending time alone and for various amounts of time. I think that is necessary in order to build, number one, good communication. Because even when you travel, or I travel, we still talk every day, a couple times, right? And check in, which is fine. But like for tomorrow, for Memorial Day, you're going to hang with the guys, right? And then I'm going to go have my time.
Right.
Me time. But then also, there are times when, your work travel takes you back home to Chicago. You spend some extra time at home with family and your mom, right? Or there are a couple times a year where I hang out with the girls, which I think is really important, right? And so I think that is really important to strengthen any relationship, whether or not you're just dating or you are married or you have been in a committed relationship. And I think if you have been in a committed relationship for a long time and you've not explored that, you really should. I mean, better late than never, in my opinion, right? Because I think that you lose yourself in relationships and you lose who you are. And I think that's why divorce happens, or, you start to lose your identity, or you don't have your own interests anymore, I think.
And here's something too, and I kind of teach that a little bit at my Mastering Self-Confidence thing when I talk to guys. Mm-hmm. I think this goes for men and women. A lot of times if they meet somebody, right, and it could be a dating website, it could be whoever, it could be a friend introducing you to somebody. If that person travels, or that person is not around that often, let's just say, still take a chance with them. I think a lot of times when people meet somebody and they're like, oh, they travel all the time, I can't trust them, they're not around, why would I be with them? Or on the flip side, say they don't even live here, but you really hit it off. Kind of like what we did. So I came to Florida, I met you, at a Disney, what was that, a video?
Filming, yeah.
Some filming
Commercial
for Disney.
Filming, yeah.
And
Disney
then we really didn't even, we were just, we just met each other.
Around.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I went back to California, and then as time went on, it was more of a friendship.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
It's kind of like everybody else. I think a lot of people, they meet, you connect on Facebook, and as first it's friends, but you didn't just give up, like we're just friends, but as time went on, even though we lived in separate areas, we still eventually worked it out. It wasn't like you saying, F him, he's halfway across, he's on the opposite side of the country.
Right.
Right?
Right, and we ran into each other. Well, when you would come back.
Right, because we had mutual friends.
Right.
That's my point. That kind of just fermented. That took a while.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But my point was, even when it did maybe start to evolve, it wasn't so cut and dry like, don't waste my time, I'm not going to waste yours.
Right.
Right? And I also think a lot of times when people start dating, it could be college or whenever, then all of a sudden someone has the opportunity to start traveling or move to another state. The person who's not leaving, a lot of times, I think, wants to just nip it in the bud and say, go do your thing, forget about it. Right? When you don't need to do that a lot of times, because I think sometimes that person who's leaving the situation, like leaving the other one, it's already very hard on them. And if they want to keep a relationship, you may consider keeping that relationship for a while to see how things go. Because sometimes that person may leave and not like where they're going and come back, or they may leave and you may decide to go with them, or you may come to, who knows what type of decision. My point is, a lot of times we're so cut and dry about things because we want immediate gratification, if that makes sense.
No, I agree. I think long distance relationships are not easy. I think that they do take time. And a commitment to, it's an investment, if who's going to visit who, when, it's costly too. It can get very expensive, but I do think, if it's something where someone goes away, I do agree with you. You got to give it a chance. Or if it's, someone who you continue to be interested in, again, you should feel comfortable to pursue that, right? So
yeah, sometimes it's just unrealistic expectations. Sometimes, especially when you're young, to say, "I'm never going to move again." Because if you're young, just a heads up, if you're in your 20s, especially now, you're. I'm not saying this for everybody, but a lot of times one's going to get an opportunity that somebody else doesn't, and you better understand that. And it could go both ways. If you're the one getting the opportunity, of course you want the other one to come with you,
right?
Or vice versa. But I was thinking about this with, this is a subject that's very similar. If people could kind of learn, like after you go through a divorce, or say you're like our age, right? Relationships, the way you think about them, how differently than when you
are younger?
Yeah, how like your behavior and the calmness because you've already been through all the bullshit, kind of.
Yeah.
But when you're younger, you have all this anxiety and stress because you have all these insecurities, I think. Not saying people that are middle-aged aren't insecure.
Right.
But it's kind of like when you're middle-aged, after a while, to say, hey, let's take this slow, right? It's not a rush a lot of times. Like if you find someone you kind of dig and they live somewhere else, you're like, hey, let me think about this. This is fine. Let me maybe work this out. If it doesn't work out. But when you're younger, I think a lot of times you put pressure on one another. That if it doesn't go a certain way, your way, like, right? Like if you plan on marrying this person and all of a sudden they want to move or they want to do something with their career, start traveling, you're afraid you're going to lose that person, or you're supposed to get married in a year or two, you're supposed to get a house, and you had all these other plans. The things change. When you're older, you can evolve, I think, a little, in my opinion, a lot easier.
But I think even long-distance relationships now are a lot different because now you have FaceTime, you have Messenger, Skype. I mean, you can call anytime, text anytime. I mean, the communication's there. I think that what's you have to also, you do have to have some sort of level of security with and good communication with that person because there people can get jealous and insecure and worry, both male and female, with social media and things like that. Trust is a huge thing too for long distance, right? I mean,
that's really what. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Obviously.
I mean, I know, but I'm just saying. But I do agree with you that you shouldn't be so quick to cut off a potential relationship because someone is far away, or be intimidated. Yeah, by the fact that this person doesn't live near you. So.
Yeah, and if, like we discussed earlier, if you're with somebody who all of a sudden takes on a job where they do have to travel,
right,
you may actually appreciate them leaving, especially if you have kids sometimes.
It's
because
true.
I just know from a lot of my cousins that even have younger kids now that some of their husbands, for the most part, they travel a lot. Some are even doctors now, or this or that. They kind of like getting in a routine with their kids where they don't always have the husband there, like arguing with them, or kind of where the husband kind of starts to blend in.
Right.
Because the mothers, a lot of times, I think, I'm just speaking from what I see, they get a nice routine going.
Right.
Right? And they like to put the kids to bed, or they like to do this, they like to, you know what I mean? Like, they don't always have to feel like they have to answer to anybody, or always do the same thing over and over again, or whatever.
Right. And I probably am a little bit more open to, you being gone for a little bit because I grew up like that with a military dad.
Right.
So I've seen my mom, take care of us alone for long stretches of time, and that was kind of normal to us. So you would think that I would want the opposite of someone always being around, but I kind of like. Yeah, I mean, like
it's a form of freedom.
Yeah, it is. I always tell you,
because you still have your independence and you still have a relationship to it, right?
Yeah.
You want to go to if I'm traveling next week, you want to go to the mall. You don't have to answer to me. You don't have to cook for me that night. I'm just saying, all right. You don't have to. Yeah. You want to go to the movies with your kids to see Pokemon. You don't have to worry about seeing John Wick. Well, you like John Wick.
I did. I saw.
My point is, you don't have to always have all these type of different balancing acts. And I think men go through that as well.
Oh, I completely agree. It doesn't. It's not male or female. It's just. No. I think it's healthy. I think it's a good thing. Long distance can be tough, and you know what? I think, it's a way to explore, and I think being apart for different stretches of time is good.
Yeah, and sometimes when somebody has to go long distance, it may be a good thing to kind of test the water, because if you can kind of go through that kind of calmly and see how both of you respond to that, and you have the patience and not being so insecure on how to handle that, and you see how the other person's kind of handling it, it can either show that you two really belong together, or you can kind of see it falling apart, right? Yeah. And a lot of times it probably should be falling apart. They should be separated, because a lot of times, I did a podcast on that, not all relationships are meant to last forever. So just because you're with somebody for a couple of years and then you decide to take another job, or they decide to travel, that's another situation that you're going to have to explore. And like I said before, not all relationships are meant to last. This person may need freedom from you, And they may doing it intentionally, they may not. I don't know. But my point being is, right? Mm-hmm. It could be somebody trying to get away from you. We just got to be honest.
Not us, yeah.
Whatever. I'm just saying in relationships, a lot of people are like, you know what? I'm going to take this job all the way here. And you're like, well, no, don't take it.
Yeah, but they're escaping the relationship.
Yeah,
there's
sometimes.
A difference.
Yeah, you got to pay attention to what's going on.
Well, I mean, you got to. There's different cues than like taking a girls' weekend and someone like intentionally not wanting to be around. I think you'd be...
And men, too. Men kind of try to hang on or bog women down. Like, get the hint sometimes they're trying to get away from you. Not that they even have to.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying. Yeah, for sure.
You just got to be a little smarter. All right, anything else? I just thought I would throw that one at you. What did you think of that one?
That's interesting.
It's interesting, right?
Yeah, it was not easy when we did that long distance, but it was good.
It was pretty interesting. I didn't know if I was going to come back to Florida, but I had my 2 daughters here, so that was quite interesting, which was very nice. And the cost of living is much cheaper.
It is.
And then California.
We compromised, and I think it is compromise.
What was interesting, though, is when Rhea was in Florida and I'm in California, Rhea lived in California. She lived on the West Coast, obviously San Francisco, Seattle, Portland.
And,
so
LA.
I think what worked for Rhea with long distance is she still got Florida because her family and her kids were here. Yeah. And then she had a nice little escape back to her other home, which was her second home, which would be the West Coast.
Yeah.
Now, if I hypothetically lived in Chicago, I don't know if it would have worked out the way it worked out because I don't think you would have maybe visited me as much, because, right? Yeah. I'm just saying, right?
I mean, and I traveled to Chicago quite a bit for work, but at one point,
Would you look forward to coming to San Diego?
Of course. And
also, you had the type of job where you had so many points for airlines and hotels, so it was. And here's the truth, like she just said earlier. Long distance are not cheap.
Yeah.
But again, you don't have to... I see a lot of people who go long distance that put all this... Like, I have to see you once a month. We have to spend every holiday together. We have to do every wedding there. We have to do this. Don't put all that added stress financially. You know what I mean? Don't bog yourself down. Because I think people do that. Like, if you're not here for Christmas, if you're not here for Easter, if you're not here for my birthday... all these ultimatums with it. I mean, you depending on how far they are... But sometimes you just can't afford it.
But I think the other thing, too, about a long-distance relationship is make sure that you reciprocate with each other. Because if one person is putting more energy into it,
sure,
that's not a good sign either.
Well, I think sometimes with long distance, each person thinks sometimes they're putting more than the other. In your case, we were both I was flying to Florida pretty often, too, to see my girls, and you were going there.
Yeah.
But sometimes it may... a lot of times I think it's hard on both.
Oh, absolutely. No, but I do think that sometimes, whether it's the guy or the gal, I think that sometimes if one person definitely is putting more into it.
Yeah. Well, it's always going to usually cost one person no matter what. Usually more money.
Well, no, I know that, but I'm just saying, but you can tell if it's a one-sided relationship. You have to look out for those cues, too, in a long-distance relationship, those red flags. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
If you're trying to make plans to go out and then that person has excuses where it's like, that's not a good time. And, it seems like a lot of times are not the right time.
Obviously.
Then it should be obvious that that's not something that's going to work out. So.
Right. So there you go. That sums it up.
What?
I have no idea. Honestly, I feel like I said, when we lived together, sometimes when I was traveling a lot, when I was gone 220 days a year, I was like...
Oh, even before the kids moved in with us, when you were traveling quite a bit, I mean, I had a lot of time on my hands.
Even when I went to Italy. I said, I think I saw her more when she lived in Florida and I lived in California.
Laughing. There was a time, that one year...
Yeah.
Yeah, where you were gone a lot, and I was gone.
You were gone too.
Yeah, I was.
So it was like a combination. She went to the Philippines, I went to Italy, and then we were both traveling, and that's what I meant. Sometimes when you even live together, you're not in a long... It's kind of not a long-distance relationship to a certain degree, but it's really how much do you see each other, right? True. It's a very interesting perspective, because I have a cousin, and Rhea knows, in Arizona, and... They're very successful, and her husband doesn't even live in the same state with them, and he basically comes in for weekends and then holidays, and he's there obviously.
Yeah.
But he has 2 homes.
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And it works for her,
Yeah.
right? That's unbelievable. And I think that's one of my cousins who I have the most in common with. And when she talks, it's almost like she's talking out of my brain, because I'm like, everything she's saying and everything she's willing to accept is like somebody kind of like myself. And I think it really comes down to freedom. If you don't like, some people just have to be around people all the time. Even in a relationship, they need a lot of attention and they want to give a lot of attention, right? When you're with me, I know you want a lot of attention. You give me a lot of attention. But I also know when I'm not with you, you don't need it.
No.
So if you're dating somebody who needs all that attention, but you like space, you might have to take a hard look at that and say, I need somebody who's just as secure, who likes their space. I'm
independent.
Right, because I'm an only child, and a lot of people I know that were only children or whatever you want to call them, they either love being alone like myself, or they don't ever want to be. They always want to be around people, like maybe Robin Williams or somebody who they said always liked to entertain people, or like, I don't know if he liked being alone or not, but I'm just saying somebody who needs a lot of attention maybe. Or I like a lot of attention, I don't. But think about that if you do go or you get into a long distance relationship, because that other person may handle that situation differently than you are. You may be secure, they may not, or you may be insecure after leaving and they may not. So you got to balance that. Anything else, Ree?
No, that's it.
That's it. All right, we're going to wrap it up there. You can check me out on my YouTube channel. It's just my name, Rich CELENZA. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I have a Mastering Self-Confidence program where I try to help men find the woman or women of their dreams, even if they've been through a bad breakup or divorce. You can find that actually at masteringselfconfidence.com. All right, I got a bunch of new podcasts I'm going to be posting too. Some funny ones with Joe Pins, Joe Spaghetti, my buddy Greg, obviously some with Rhea. I've been posting some funny ones with my mom. I blame her for making our family fat. And a bunch of other crazy things as well. Fun stuff. That's it. All right, we're wrapping up. Say goodbye, Ree.
Bye.
All right, take care.